It's all going to zero against Bitcoin.
It's going up forever.
You're against Bitcoin, you're against freedom.
Yo, welcome to another episode of Simply Bitcoin Live. We're your number one source for the peaceful Bitcoin revolution, code breaking news, culture, medic warfare. We will be your guide through the separation of money and state. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Simply Bitcoin, the most watched daily Bitcoin only live show on YouTube, Rumble, and X. Sit back, relax, enjoy the ride. We have a lot to talk about today. It's one of those episodes where, yeah, we're going to go there because, you know what? No one is saying the quiet part out loud. And the reality is this, okay? There's a U.S. election coming up. All the candidates are not exactly great. I would say they're not amazing. But there's a big there's big difference between one and then the other two, which RFK Jr. and Trump and Biden, right? And I want you guys to really understand what is the ultimate end goal. The ultimate end goal here is the separation of money and state. That being said, I'm a single issue voter. I don't really care about the fiat politics. I think the fiat politics are a symptom of broken money. I think if we fix the money, we do separate money from state. I really do believe in the theory from the sovereign individual. I think it makes politics irrelevant over the long run. That being said, we are still in a transitionary period. So, unfortunately, politicians can make your life a living hell if you live in a certain jurisdiction. And what we have seen from the current administration over the last 2 years, whether it's Operation Choke Point 2.0, whether it's the proposed 30% mining tax, whether it's locking up Bitcoin privacy developers, #FreeSamurai, whatever it is. Advocating for central bank digital currencies. It is an undeniable fact from a regulatory perspective, purely that the current administration is not friendly towards Bitcoin. They don't like it. They want a monopoly. They want a central bank digital currency monopoly. They've made that clear as day. So I'm approaching it from that angle. And the other candidates that have a shot at winning, which is RFK Jr. and Donald Trump, have both taken now it's official, have both taken an anti-central bank digital currency stance. And Trump last night, we're going to play you guys the video, has taken a pro-Bitcoin stance, pro-crypto, put Bitcoin in there because I don't think they really know the difference between the two, RFK and Trump. So we have gotten to a point in Bitcoin's history where Bitcoin is entering into the political landscape, is entering into the political sphere. This was always an inevitability. This is the separation of money and state. Ultimately, it comes down to power. There's a bureaucratic elite that have the very special privilege of having the godlike power of being able to create money for free that everyone else has to work for. Did you really think that they were just going to hand over the keys and say, you have found better money, we're just going to pack it up and go home? Absolutely not. They're going to take out all the tools that they have, and they're going to try to stifle innovation. They're going to try to stop this. And this is exactly what's been happening. Now, politicians need to get elected, right? So, they like to tell their constituents and they like to tell people things that would get them elected. And Trump or RFK would not be saying these things if they didn't believe that there was a base of people that supported the industry, that liked Bitcoin. Because if not, they wouldn't be saying it, right? No one is better than their incentives fundamentally. So we have reached that part where unfortunately, it's a very uncomfortable conversation. I would say it's slightly outside of the Overton window, the acceptable window of discourse, to talk about very divisive figures. One of them being Donald Trump, RFK Jr. not so much. And guys, we have to face that reality. We have to face that reality that unfortunately here in the US, there's three choices. One being very negative from a regulatory standpoint, and the other two being very positive from a regulatory standpoint. I'm not the only one that is picking up this trend. It's becoming incredibly obvious. However, I will say that I was one of the first to say the quiet part out loud, which was, and the reason that I had a feeling that, you know, I was like holding in that tweet for like months, and I was going back, and me and Opti were going literally back and forth saying like, dude, like I can't release this tweet. Like it's outside the Overton window. And then the Samurai Wallet thing happened. When the Samurai Wallet thing happened, I took the gloves off and I said, you know what? If they're locking us in a box, it's time to just say the quiet part out loud, which is the current administration is anti-Bitcoin and pro-central bank digital currency. And the candidates that the current administration is up against in the next election are pro-Bitcoin and anti-central bank digital currency. As a Bitcoiner whose goal is the separation of money and state, like, which of the three, which option is best suited in order for you to achieve your goal, right? It's incredibly obvious. But because this is such a divisive environment, because it's such a, you know, politically heated, very divided country at the moment, I think people are getting lost in the fiat politics sense. I ask you not to do that. I ask you to pay attention to the end goal. The end goal is the separation of money and state. And the end goal is fix the money, fix the world. I truly believe Bitcoin is the great unifier. It's going to bring people together. But the last thing you want to happen is a hostile regulatory environment, which is incentivizing Bitcoin companies to pack up and move overseas. That is already happening at a record pace. Wasabi, Phoenix Wallet, Wallet of Satoshi. Like, you can literally you can go down the list and you can point out so many Bitcoin companies that have just chosen just to, like, you know what? The United States of America, out of all countries on the face of the planet, is now way too hostile for me to develop my Bitcoin business here. Like, no, you know, it's crazy. So what's the choice? The choice is, and I know a lot of people in the chat are saying like, oh, votes don't matter, votes don't count, like blah, blah, blah. Look, reality is this. Elections have consequences. That's number one. Number two is you might not care about politics, but it surely does care about you. That's the reality. So unless you have the means and the willpower to literally pack up and move to another location, which you could always do, you can vote with your feet. Unfortunately, it is what it is, and you kind of have to see it. Because if we're heading into a territory, and we've been covering this for the last couple of weeks, where they're demonizing and they're planting the seeds to, I think, eventually criminalize self-custody, shut off the on-ramps. And if you think that that is totally crazy or hyperbolic, they've done this in the past with the 6102 order. You know, they literally made it illegal for American citizens to own gold. Like, if you think that, like a wounded animal trapped into a corner, the state isn't capable of doing things to ensure its self-preservation, you're absolutely naive and you haven't been paying attention to what's been happening the last 5 years, right? So wake the F up, you know, take your emotional stuff and put it aside and focus on our end goal here. And our end goal here is the separation of money and state. One candidate is hostile towards it. Two candidates are pro Bitcoin, which furthers our cause. I can give a flying F about all the other policies because it's just fiat garbage. Like, it's meant to divide and conquer. That's like, I really believe that, right? So anyways, it's going to be a spicy episode. So no more delay. I do want to bring up my legendary, who is already giggling and laughing because he knows. He knows. He sees the writing on the wall and he's like, oh, God damn.
This is going to be a great show. This is going to be a great show. I'm excited for this one. The chat's going wild right now. This might be the most active chat we've had in a while. So you know this is a great topic. But before I go into it, I'm not even going to give my take on what Trump said and all that. But first and foremost, I think everyone knows my initial fundamental stance is I don't trust politicians. I know that politicians always say things to try to get favor from the populace. But hey, there is a very defining trend that we're seeing right now. One side is anti-Bitcoin, pro-CBDC, and the other side is anti-CBDC, pro-Bitcoin. So I'm not a one-issue voter per se, but hey, if you are endorsing Bitcoin, I'm starting to like you more. I'm not gonna lie. You know, I was trolling my mom and my brother and sister last night, and basically saying like I'm pro Trump now. Like I'm a Trumper because he's pro Bitcoin. Like let's go. But I think the real signal here, and I think the real defining motion here is what you said, Nico, is that Trump's a businessman. And he sees the landscape, he's reading the room, and he realizes that there is a lot of businesses that are coming out of Bitcoin. And hey, if you want to improve your country, hold on, Nico.
No. I'm going to stop you right there. Dude, I don't even know what the Trump is.
Hey,
I don't know what to expect.
Can I mute
RFK,
you?
No. but like let's take it to let's take it to the fundamental basics, bro, because I don't want to advocate for a candidate like, oh, Trump is this, RFK is that, Biden is this. No. I don't even want to go there. I'm just gonna say this: one hates Bitcoin, the other two are pro Bitcoin and anti CBDC. It's Bitcoin or slavery, Bitcoin or central bank digital currencies. There's two options, right? There's two guys that are pro Bitcoin, anti CBDC, meaning anti slavery. And then there's one guy that's anti Bitcoin, so mean anti freedom, and pro slavery, which is central bank digital currency. That's it. I'm not going to get into the whole rabbit hole of discussing Trump is this, RFK is that. I don't give a flying F. I just don't care, because my mind is on the goal, which is the separation of money and state. My goal is fix the money, fix the world. And I believe that if we get another 4 years of the current administration, I would not be surprised. I'm going on record saying this, that they literally make self-custody Bitcoin illegal, or they try to shut off the on-ramps altogether. I would not be surprised at all. All right, Opti, I'm sorry to interrupt you.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you finish, Nico. Sheesh, let me finish. No, all I'm saying is it is in the benefit of the U.S. to incentivize businesses to stay in Bitcoin and incentivize entrepreneurs to come into Bitcoin. That's where I was going with, Nico. But yeah, man, hey, it's the meme. We say it all the time. Bitcoin or slavery. It's becoming very clear, at least on paper and in rhetoric, who's who. So I agree with you, Nico.
Like, I mean, like, guys, and I know there's going to be a lot of people because it's such an emotional thing, and I understand and I empathize with you. But you have to look at it from a purely objective, like, fact. And that's what we're going to lay out for you guys today. We're going to literally compare and contrast the two. We've covered RFK tremendously, and we'll let you guys decide. Like, it is an objective fact. You cannot deny it at this point. Has nothing to do with right or left. Has nothing to do with conservative or liberal, right? RFK's dope too from the Bitcoin regulatory standpoint. I don't really care about the policies and all that other stuff, right? Anyways, so I do want Josh. Josh, unfortunately, you've had to join us on one of the most spicy episodes that I think we'll do. But I think it's also a very necessary episode that we have to do. So Josh, we saw each other at the Bitcoin halving party in El Salvador. It was great to meet you, and you have some awesome projects that you're working on, which I think are incredibly important. I think, guys, we have to look at this, the separation of money and state, as a combined effort of individuals, and we all have a role to play. Right. So, Josh, could you give a quick elevator pitch on what you're working on these days?
Yeah. Hey. Thanks for having me, guys. And yeah, it was good to meet you in El Salvador, Nico. And Opti, I was looking for you in El Salvador, but I guess you were busy chasing Miss El Salvador. So, you say you're always looking to get close to the money printer, but I think you were getting closer to the baby maker on that one. But
hey, we got to make more babies, so I endorse this message.
I don't.
But hey, you know what? Props to you, man, because you don't make shots you don't take. So good job, man. Definitely.
Let's go. Exactly. Wayne Gretzky gets it.
Yeah, 100%. So, you wanted to ask what I'm working on?
Yeah. So what are you working on these days, Josh?
Sure. So I am I'm in real estate, and I have I've been into it for the last 25 years. And I guess I got to kind of pull back a little bit, give you a little bit of backstory. So 25 years ago, the thing to do was when you started making money and acquiring some wealth, you would buy a house, beyond your primary residence, and that you would make it a rental, and you'd put a tenant in it. You'd get them paying the rent, and then you'd get that up and running, and that money that the tenant would pay would pay your mortgage. And then once that's spinning okay, it's like spinning a plate. And once you got that one plate spinning, then you'd go to the next one and you'd buy another house, and just pretty much replicate the sauce, and just keep doing it over and over and over again. And so that was what I was doing for several years, was just buying rental properties, investment properties, and just trying to get the tenants to pay the mortgages. And then over 20 years, I found that, hey, guess what? They've pretty much paid the mortgage off. And so that was the traditional way to garner wealth. And I'm in my mid 40s, so that was kind of the way our generation looked at it. But then in the last 15 years, we had this magical internet money show up, and now it's Bitcoin, and that's where I've been pursuing that over the last 7 years. And so now I'm actually kind of flipping the script, and I'm starting to sell off rental houses to buy Bitcoin.
Awesome. And I think that's like an example of, right, and I think Parker Lewis wrote, I know Parker Lewis wrote an incredible piece that was released by Unchained, called The Great Definancialization. Essentially, he was making the case that a lot of these assets, whether it's real estate, art, or like whatever you can think of, have a monetary premium because people are trying to maintain their value or maintain their purchasing power, or actually increase their purchasing power over time. But what happens when there's a superior asset like Bitcoin? A lot of that is going to flow from those assets into Bitcoin, right? That's a theory. It's not only a theory now, because now we have an example of an individual who's doing just that. So I'm excited to cover that in the culture. So guys, it's gonna be a great show. Before we jump into it, I do want to give an extremely special shout out to our lead sponsor, Bitcoin Well. Bitcoin Well is the best place to buy your automatic self-custody Bitcoin stack. It is a self-custody by default Bitcoin platform. Future-proof your money. What does that mean, self-custody by default? That means that you can't buy Bitcoin on Bitcoin Well unless you're going to take self-custody. They literally ask you to put an address when you purchase it, and your funds clear from your bank. It literally goes straight into your address of choice, which perfectly aligns with the Simply Bitcoin ethos of the separation of money and state. Guys, this is not only a financial innovation, this is a revolution. Support self-custody Bitcoin on-ramps like Bitcoin Well. To get started, go to bitcoinwell.com/simply. It literally takes, like, I'm not even kidding, like literally a minute or two to sign up. Go to bitcoinwell.com, you put in your email, you get started. They have a 1% spread, which is pretty standard across the industry. It's Bitcoin only, and most importantly, it's non-custodial, empowering sovereign ownership with free automatic self-custody. So ladies and gentlemen, go to bitcoinwell.com today to get started. All right, everybody, let's hit the numbers. We have a lot to talk about.
The Bitcoin numbers.
Is your Bitcoin in cold storage really secure? Is your seed phrase really secure? Stampseed's do-it-yourself kit has everything you need to hammer your seed words into commercial-grade titanium plates instead of just writing them on paper. Don't store your generational wealth on paper. Paper is prone to water damage, fire damage. You want to put your generational wealth on one of the strongest metals on planet Earth, titanium. Your words are actually stamped into this metal plate with this hammer and these letter stamps. And once your words are in, they aren't going anywhere. No risk of the plate breaking apart and pieces falling everywhere. Titanium stamped seeds will survive nearly triple the heat produced by a house fire. They're also crush-proof, waterproof, non-corrosive, and time-proof. All things that paper is not, allowing you to hodl your Bitcoin with peace of mind for the long haul. Stamp your seed on Stampseed. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I made it incredibly ridiculously easy for you guys. You can literally scan the QR code on your screen. It will take you directly to the Stampseed website, where you guys can get yourself a Stampseed titanium seed fridge storage kit, and you can use promo code SIMPLY to get 15% off. At the time of recording, the Bitcoin price is 62,440. Block height 842,726. Sats per dollar 1,602. The market cap of Bitcoin currently at 1.23 trillion. Bitcoin priced in gold 26.9 ounces. Bitcoin versus gold market cap 7.69%. Percentage issued 93.79%. Decline from all-time high 15.3%. It's a 15% discount if you stack those sats today. Forward monetary inflation 0.85%. Realized monetary inflation 1.69%. You know, on Simply, we try to adopt the Bitcoin ethos and the game theory aspect of Bitcoin. So a lot of the things that I think are playing out today, and we try to take the logic from the sovereign individual, try to apply it to where we are in a historical sense. So there's a lot of things when you apply game theory and incentives to certain situations that you can anticipate. You can't predict, but you can anticipate, like, okay, it was obvious that a country was going to make Bitcoin legal tender. It was obvious that eventually there was going to be an ETF. Now, it was obvious, but just because it's obvious doesn't mean that you're going to believe it's going to happen, because it's never happened before. So it's like literally just living in your imagination. Now, one of the things that we predicted or speculated on was back 3 months ago, we said, you know, is Donald Trump on Team Bitcoin? Why did we say that? Well, it was becoming incredibly obvious that the current administration was taking a political stance on Bitcoin, right? And Vivek, shout out Vivek Ramaswamy, which did great in the Republican presidential candidate race. We know that he tapped on Donald Trump and told him about central bank digital currencies, to the point that Trump actually mentioned this on the campaign trail. I'll let you guys hear the video.
I love him too now. I didn't love him when he was running, but I like him now. It's amazing the way you can like somebody when you win, right? But Vivek is great. He's really great. But he wanted this, and I'll give him full credit for it. It's very important, actually. I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency.
Okay, so first video right off the rip. Please pay attention to what we want. Separation of money and state, right? Fix the money, fix the world. Policies, irrelevant, right? Bitcoin, if you're a Bitcoiner and you want the separation of money and state, you believe that Bitcoin will eventually make politics completely irrelevant, right? So the question is, how do we get from A to Z? All right, that's the question, right? So when he said this, I was like, okay, I think it's just a matter of months before he joins Team Bitcoin. But let's talk about the Overton window, because I think a lot of the reason, and I know, take a shot, by the way, if you're in the audience, I know that's one of the jokes. One of the reasons that this is so unpopular, you can't even say this, is because of how divisive Donald Trump is. And RFK Jr., not so much, but you can't say these types of things at the risk of being othered, at the risk of people interpreting what you're saying and saying, oh, you like Trump, I can no longer talk to you. And again, it's outside of the Overton window. But the moment where they put one of us in a box, the moment that they arrested a Bitcoin privacy developer, they have escalated essentially what is happening right now. They have escalated the situation. So I thought it was incredibly important to mention this. And you know, on Twitter, what tends to happen is a tweet only performs if it resonates with a lot of people. And back in April 25th, so not that long ago, I said, all right, I'm going to say it because it was incredibly obvious at that point. No one is saying it, which I was very surprised in the Bitcoin community. Biden winning re-election would be terrible for Bitcoin in the US. And I'll make the case for why that is. And I've been threading it with multiple examples of one from Pierre Richard, his words, not mine. Biden's authoritarian attack on Bitcoin is anti-competition. He wants a central bank digital currency. And then when we'll get to during the news segment in regards to the current legislation, why I believe the administration has gone out of the way and say, listen, even if this passes the House and the Senate, we're going to veto it. I believe it's a political stance. So let's go through some of the, before I play you guys the Trump video from yesterday, I want to go through some of the things that Biden has done, the Biden administration specifically has done towards the industry. Obviously, the most obvious one has been the 30% Bitcoin mining tax in the budget proposal for 2025. Keep in mind, Bitcoin miners are like toasters. They use electricity, just like a washing machine, just like a video game. Why is there a 30% tax specifically on Bitcoin miners and not on everything else? Well, obviously, it's because they want to kill the industry in the United States, right? It's a political move, not so much a, for whatever the other reason is. Now, Nick Carter wrote this incredible piece, which we covered when it came out. Wow, it's almost been more than a year now. That's crazy. And we were talking about it, Operation Choke Point 2.0. And Nick Carter did an incredible job laying out all the different things that they have done over the last couple of weeks. So I'll start out with the top. It says, what began as a trickle is now a flow. The U.S. government is using the banking sector to organize a sophisticated, widespread crackdown against the crypto industry. And the administration's efforts are no secret. They express plainly in memos, regulatory guidance, and blog posts. However, the breadth of this plan, spanning virtually every financial regulator, as well as its highly coordinated nature, has even the most steely-eyed crypto veterans nervous that the crypto businesses might end up completely unbanked. Stablecoins may be stranded and unable to manage flows in and out of crypto, and exchanges might be shut off from the banking system entirely. And it goes through a bunch of different things. So on December 6th, Senator Elizabeth Warren, John Kennedy, and Roger Marshall send a letter to a crypto-friendly bank, Silvergate, scolding them for providing services to FTX and Alameda Research and lambasting them for failing to report suspicious activities associated with those clients. Signature announces its intent to have deposits ascribed to crypto clients. In other words, they'll give customers their money back, then shut down their accounts. Goes on to say the Fed, the FDIC, and the OCC released a joint statement on the risks to banks engaging with crypto, not explicitly banning banks' ability to hold crypto or deal with crypto clients, but to strongly discourage them from doing so on a safety and sound basis. Metropolitan Commercial Bank announces a total shutdown of crypto assets related vertical. Silvergate stock falls to a low of 11.55 on a bank run, and insolvency fears have traded as high as $160. Binance announces that due to policy at Signature Bank that they will only process user fiat transactions more than 10,000. Fast forward a year later, Roger Ver was arrested in Spain for not paying his exit taxes. CZ was sentenced, the richest man in the world, sentenced to 4 months in prison. Arthur Hayes was also charged, the founder of BitMEX, right? And keep in mind, you would say, wow, these are all shitcoiners, Nico. They deserve absolutely no mercy. The problem is that now they're coming after us when they lock Bitcoin privacy developers in jail. And I also want to remind everyone that no banker went to jail in 2008. And I would make the argument that they did a lot more damage to society than any of these altcoin, shitcoin casinos, right? Like 2008 was very destructive. And the fact that no banker went to jail tells you that they play by a different set of rules. The cartel functions differently. And they actually want you to know that. Also, not to mention the quote unquote public service announcement that came out from the FBI of all people. Literally it's kind of like a veiled threat in a way. But they, in this public service announcement, they say avoid using services that advertise themselves for illegal purposes. You could make a good argument for that. Be cautious when using cryptocurrency services known to be used by criminals to launder their funds. I mean, like you could say like Sparrow Wallet, it says beware financial services that do not ask for KYC information, including name, date of birth, address, and an ID. Understand that just because an app can be found in an app store does not necessarily mean it is a legal service and is complying with federal requirements. Like you can see how like that is a very slippery slope, right? Oh, Electrum Wallet was used for illicit means and it didn't ask for KYC and date of birth. And also we didn't give it a stamp of approval. And just because it was an app store, like, Sparrow Wallet, yeah, you guys have to pack up shop. Bitcoin Core, like you could see where they're going. It's obvious. Like they're coming after self-custody, right? So I do want to play the video from yesterday. And we have to understand from the historical perspective that now a presidential election will determine the regulatory environment for the Bitcoin industry for the next 4 years. This isn't just me saying this, observing this and pointing this out. Here you have the CEO and founder of River saying this is objectively true. And he's agreeing to my observation in terms of the current administration's hostility towards the space. And this is the point that I want to make to you guys before I play the video, but this is the reality. And this is the separation of money and state. And Bitcoin itself might be neutral, but the consequences of what a Bitcoin standard is going to have for the world are incredibly political in the sense that, yes, it takes power away from central bankers and politicians and it gives it back to the people. Like that is literally a revolution of sort, right? Like this was always going to happen. So it's incredibly important for you guys to understand what is going on, be aware, right? So this is what I said yesterday. I said Bitcoin is entering the political sphere. And the reason that politics is uncomfortable for most people is because it concerns power at the highest level where morality completely goes out the window. You might not care, but the regulatory environment in your country will have an impact on your life. And that is a fact. Like you can't deny that. Like unless you want to keep moving and you have the means, because you hear that a lot from Bitcoiners, and I'm one of them. Like multiple passports, big fan, multiple jurisdictional arbitrage. Let's get the F out of here, move to Dubai, all fine and dandy. But I would say most people don't have the means or have family ties in their jurisdiction that they're in, right? So I'll play you guys the video. It's about 29 seconds long. And here is basically, a crypto shitcoiner asking Trump, some questions. Let's check out what he has to say.
Thank you for the statement. Yeah, with the goggles on.
A lot of the smartest people in crypto are moving their businesses out of the U.S. because they're scared of the U.S.'s regulations.
Because of the hostility.
Correct.
Yeah, crypto is moving out of the U.S. because of hostility toward crypto.
Correct. So what are you going to do to stop it?
Well, we'll stop it because I don't want that. I want that. If we're going to embrace it, we have to let them be here.
Yes, sir.
So, again, anti-CBDC, right? You could not be a fan of how Trump says things. It's interesting, right? But he's taking a stance, right? Is basically saying like, look, and I know a lot of people were nitpicking and basically saying, Nico, he said crypto, not Bitcoin. It's like, bro, people don't even know what Bitcoin is, and you expect a perfect candidate to come in there and be a non-Bitcoin hardcore max. I mean, a non-shitcoiner hardcore Bitcoin maxi. Like, I'll take what I can get type of thing, right? Anyways, here's like another vantage point of this. I think a little bit better of a video. Let's check it out.
They are against it. The Biden doesn't even know what it is. If you ask Biden, sir, are you for or against crypto? What's that? What the? Get me off the stage. He's saying, get me off the stage. No, he has no idea. But look, Gensler is very much against it. The Democrats are very much against it. And I say this, a lot of people are very much for it. Probably a lot of the people in this group. And I'm fine with it. I want to make sure it's good and solid and everything else, but I'm good with it. And if you like crypto in any form, and it comes in a lot of different forms, if you're in favor of crypto, you better vote for Trump. They are against
politician, fundamentally at the end of the day. But guys, you know, it is what it is. I'll leave you with this last comment from Nick Carter. It says, haven't heard from the crypto is nonpartisan and quote, we have no way of telling who is better crowd lately. And then he goes on to say, today, Orange Man directly endorses crypto. Joe Biden threatens to veto SAB 121 overturn, which we'll get to in the news. And Dems close ranks around FDIC chair corrupt Marty. There's no ambiguity at all. If you are in any way connected to crypto and you vote Democrat, you're directly voting against your own interests. Like, guys, I am sorry. Like, I'm sorry. Like, it's just because like one has taken one stance and the other guys have taken another stance. Now, to give Troy Cross credit, and I believe this is incredibly important, Democrat voters are no more likely anti-crypto than Republican voters. Completely agree. The politicians are another matter. So that's something to keep in mind, and I completely agree with this because remember, it's not red versus blue, it's not liberal versus conservative, it is the party of orange, the party of Bitcoin, peace, prosperity, opportunity, equality, equity, versus the party of slavery, nihilism, war, poverty, nihilism, which is a party of central bank digital currencies and fiat. So it's not about Democrat versus Republican, and it's our job to get the message out there and say, hey guys, you know, I don't, you know, you're entitled to have your ideological beliefs and your political beliefs. I don't really care about them. But what I can tell you is that, look, you're using a broken money and it is having a negative impact on your life, right? Let's come together and fix the money, which is why it's not only Trump, it's also RFK Jr. who is part of all of this as well, right? So that's what I'll say for you guys, right? You have three choices in front of you, right? You have one, which is completely hostile towards the industry. I can't emphasize this enough. I've laid out the facts for you guys, literally laid it out. And then you have the others. RFK literally gave a speech at the Bitcoin conference saying he'll protect your right as a Bitcoiner to take self-custody. And he's anti-CBDC, literally going in depth as to why CBDCs are horrible. And then you have Trump, which is way more divisive, which you heard it. I just played you guys the video. Anti-CBDC and, pro crypto and whatever, right? So, you know, it doesn't matter, right? Either of them, but there's two choices, right? And then there's the bad choice, you know? So I hope I laid it out for you guys in a way where you can look at this objectively and see what's going on. I encourage you to do your own research. If you don't believe me, if you feel like I'm being biased, we've gone above and beyond on Simply Bitcoin to remain as neutral as possible and be objective about this. But the moment they put one of us in a box, The moment they start going after self-custody, the moment that you have multiple Lightning wallets leaving the United States of America, which is supposed to be the land of opportunity and entrepreneurship, we have a problem. And there are currently candidates that are literally saying, we'll do the exact opposite of the people in power. So we have to say it. We have to say the quiet part out loud. And unfortunately, the quiet part out loud is slightly outside of the Overton window. It's an uncomfortable conversation because of how divisive Donald Trump is as a figure, right? But you have to look at this objectively from our end goal, which is the separation of money and state, because we believe that with the separation of money and state, you fix the money, you fix the world, and you make all of this political bullshit completely irrelevant. 100%. So I know, guys, slightly uncomfortable conversation, but it is what it is. And you cannot deny the data. It's right there. It's right up in your face. They're literally telling you they don't want you to hold the money that doesn't steal from you. And they're literally telling you, we want to retain the privilege of being able to create money for free that everyone else has to work for. Opti?
Yeah, wait, Nico, before we go on, though, we did get a super chat, so...
Jong, appreciate the $20, man. Really helps the show. Thank you so much. Jong said, I voted for Biden. I've witnessed how this administration has been destroying freedoms bit by bit, as have the prior administrations before him. RFK, though imperfect, believes in freedom, transactional, and speech. Vote best. Exactly. Boom. Right? It doesn't matter. Trump, RFK, it literally doesn't matter, right? It's just like, you just have to be aware. And I want you guys to be aware. If you vote, right, that if you vote for Biden, you are literally voting against the Bitcoin regulatory environment in the United States. I can care less, and I'm not going to go into all the political issues because this is not that type of show. This is a Bitcoin show. Anyways, Opti, what's your take on all this, brother?
Yeah, so of course, first and foremost, I'm going to caveat everything with, you guys know me, I do not trust politicians, at least this current brand of politicians. I think we can all agree that most politicians in today's politics are either corrupt or they're just straight up, don't know what they're either idiots or they're corrupt. So, that's my caveat here. And of course, he is a politician, so of course he's going to say what he think will win him votes. With all that being said, I think I'm just going to come out and say Trump just won the 2024 election by embracing Bitcoin. And everyone in the chat saying he said crypto, he didn't say Bitcoin. Guys, for most average people, when they say crypto, they're talking Bitcoin and everything else. So you don't need to nitpick on he said crypto or he didn't really actually say Bitcoin. We kind of know how the game works. If they say crypto, at least in the normie population, it usually means Bitcoin. And he even differentiated there. There's a lot of different versions of crypto. And so we don't need to nitpick on that whole idea of, he didn't actually say Bitcoin. Though I think the point remained the same, that we are seeing two sides of the coin here. There is one that is embracing CBDCs. We've seen them attack Bitcoin. We've seen them attack Bitcoin businesses. And if they continue going down that route, we know that it's going to get worse for every single one of us. Unless you're going just full accelerationist mode here, where it's let's get Biden back in there, accelerate this fight, and we're going to win anyways, which I kind of totally agree. On the other side, though, hey, I would love a president that at least doesn't attack us as Bitcoiners. And so we say it all the time. It's Bitcoiner slavery. It's CBDCs versus Bitcoin. And right now, if you're a Bitcoiner, and I know a lot of Bitcoiners out there are one issue voters here, it's becoming a very easy choice here. It's you're voting for Trump. It is what it is, guys. Unless a Democrat comes out and being I'm going to, not attack Bitcoin, then I think your vote's already made up for you. And I really find it interesting.
I gotta interrupt you right there, Opti, because it's not a monolith, right? So there are Democrats that are pro Bitcoin. right? And there are Republicans that are anti-Bitcoin.
And also, I do want to caveat that with, I think there is a very huge difference, and Troy Cross said it very well. Like, I think there's a very huge difference between those in power in the official positions on the left and the right versus just the average everyday people. Like, I fundamentally believe that most people are probably indifferent to Bitcoin. They're just like, yeah, whatever. Like, I don't care about internet nerd money. Like, I don't need it. They don't see the need or the use case or the problem that Bitcoin is solving. And that's why it's on us to go out there and have these conversations, hopefully wake people up and all that. So I totally agree that, like, it's not a monolith, and we can separate, quote unquote, those in power versus just like the average voting population. Like, I totally agree with that. But it is very interesting to see this conversation play out. I mean, Nico, we were saying, I think we were kind of pushing this out to the 2028 election and being that Bitcoin's going to be a defining conversation in election soon. We were kind of thinking like, oh, maybe not in 2024, but it does seem like everything is getting pushed up. And it seems now that in 2024, there will be a huge conversation in regards to CBDCs versus Bitcoin. And on that note, you know, I think we do have to give a hat tip to Vivek here for, I'm sure he's had these conversations. Of course, Trump is, you know, he's very good at rhetoric and he's good at reading the audience. And of course, he's going to say what he thinks is going to get him elected. He's a politician and all that. But we've seen what happens to a country when they embrace Bitcoin. We see what happened with Bukele and what he's done with El Salvador and attracting businesses and entrepreneurs to the country. Like, this would be the best thing for our country in America. We want entrepreneurs building companies here. We want to ensure that we're not getting attacked here. We want to ensure that the best money in the world can circulate in America and all that good stuff. So I mean, hey man, this is so great. I think this is going to be so interesting moving forward. And I'm like, I voted once and I feel like I got scammed. So like, I'm still on the fence whether I'm going to vote again. But I absolutely love hearing this type of rhetoric coming out from Donald Trump. He's absolutely hilarious. Like, whether you like him or not, the guy is absolutely hilarious and very charismatic. And hey, the best part about this, I think, though, and I just remembered what I was going to say before Nico cut me off, like always. I find it the most interesting aspect here is there is such a strong Trump derangement syndrome that no one.
Dude, we're not going there, dude.
Well, no, I'm just saying that we're not going clearly there, here.
We're
like,
not
no
going
one
there.
clearly on this topic, and you're going to see a lot of people.
We're not going there, dude. We're not going there. Look, I respect everyone's opinion. Right, Trump is a very divisive figure. I completely acknowledge that. I understand it, but our job as Bitcoin content creators is to report to you guys the objective truth in terms of what is going on with the separation of money and state, right? The current administration, their regulatory stance on what's going on in the Bitcoin industry, and the other two candidates' stance in terms of how they look at the industry. That's it. I don't, not going into the political slogans or any of that. That's not our job or the purpose of the show. Josh, I do want to hand it off to you. I know we've been rambling for quite a bit. What's your take on all this?
That over the last couple of months, this issue of Bitcoin is definitely becoming more of a point of friction. And so I think that it is becoming more and more divisive, and it is interesting to hear what Trump had to say. Obviously, you know, me being neutral down the middle here, I do think you guys kind of overlooked something, though, because I believe Trump has been a Bitcoiner for a long time, right? Because, you know, Bitcoin's orange signal, and Trump has orange hair, right? So, I mean, I think there's a parallel there that we should consider, that he might have been giving us subtle hints for a long time. But, you know, kidding aside, he was pitching NFTs, you know, years ago and selling his Trump trading cards. So I think he's starting to come around, you know, like a lot of us do. It takes time to come around. But by supporting Bitcoin and the ecosystem, he's going to gain a big user base, right? I mean, there's a lot of people in the Bitcoin industry, in the crypto industry, that is going to vote orange, and they're going to be one issue voters. And just like pretty much probably, 90% of the people that are watching this are going to be a one issue voter. And so Trump is definitely, he's doing the right thing to bring a bigger voter base for him in 24. And it'll be interesting to see what happens.
100%. And I think that's and I see all the slack in the chat. Opti, goddamn, bro, open Pandora's box. Guys, we want to be as inclusive as possible of everyone's opinions. And we want to stay objective in what is going on. This is very, very delicate, unfortunately, all of this. Anyways, guys, we have a lot to talk about during the news and more on this story. But before we get to that, I want to give a shout out to our sponsor. And of course, I'm talking about the pleb party that is happening at Nashville around the Bitcoin 2024 conference. It's a 12-hour open bar from noon to midnight. It's a pleb party in Nashville the day before the biggest conference in the U.S., Thursday, July 25th. The last pleb party in Miami was sold out 8 days before. Confirmed attendees so far include Larry Lepard, Preston Pish, the entire Simply Bitcoin crew, including Nico, Sophie, Opti, Rustin, James Lavish, Robert Breedlove, Mark Moss, Pubby, Tatum Turnup. It's going to be at an amazing venue, a rustic automobile factory from 1910 with brick walls and tons of proof of work atmosphere. Over 1,000 Bitcoin plebs expected. Get your tickets on plebpartynashville.com. So you could scan the QR code or you could check the link in the video description. All right, everybody, let's get to the news.
The Daily News.
I want to give a shout out to our sponsor, Foundation Devices. It's self-custody done right. They built a premium grade hardware wallet called Passport right here in the US. It's fully open source and verifiable. It's the most intuitive Bitcoin wallet designed with a UX reminiscent of a simple feature phone. So you will know how to navigate it and use it the moment you pick it up. Get your Bitcoin off exchanges and into your own hands in just a few minutes. Experience the peace of mind that comes with taking ownership of your own keys. After a massive sellout during Bitcoin Miami 2023, the Passport is back in stock at foundationdevices.com. Bitcoin only, open source verifiable, completely air-gapped security model, gorgeous design craft, premium grade materials. If you're thinking about getting your Bitcoin off exchanges, this is the one for you. Check out the Passport link in the show notes below to learn more. All right, guys, I made it incredibly easy for you guys. You could scan the QR code on your screen or check the link in the video description, and you guys can get yourself a Passport hardware wallet by Foundation Devices. You definitely you want to take self-custody in these times, and one of the best ways is by getting yourself a Passport by Foundation Devices. You can scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. All right, everybody, this is what I want to talk about today. The House votes to nullifies SEC anti-crypto banking guidance SAB 121. So what am I talking about? Goes on to say the Cointelegraph article for our audio listeners. The United States House of Representatives has voted to pass a bill overturning controversial SEC guidance preventing banks from owning crypto. President Joe Biden, however, warned early in the day that he would veto the new bill if it were to make it to his desk. So this ended up passing, I might add. Here's the legislation, and it passed 228 to 182. As you could see, it was basically across party lines. The Republicans voted 207 yes, 10 did not vote on the Republican side. On the Democratic side, 21 voted yes and 182 voted no. 10 did not vote at all, right? So I do want to give a shout out to the 21 Democrats that did vote yes. So first off, it's Akunikos, Boyle, Cavero, Costa, Craig, Cooler, Davis, Gallego, Goddenheimer, Holohan, Moskowitz, Moulton, Nickel, Papas, Phillips, Sherrill, Slokin, Soto, Swalwell, Torres, and Beasley. all those Democrats in the House of Representatives all voted to vote yes on this bill here. And why did Biden veto this? Well, I mean, I think it's why did he threaten to veto this? I think it's incredibly obvious as to why. The moment that banks and financial institutions start custodying Bitcoin, all of a sudden their incentives align with Bitcoin. All of a sudden their ability to control those financial institutions, those banks, it starts to slip out of their hands. What if they start to realize, holy cow, I would rather hold Bitcoin than these treasury bills. I would rather own Bitcoin I'd rather have Bitcoin on my balance sheet than US dollars, right? That's what it's about. That's why they're threatening to veto this. And here's Michael Saylor making the case as to what are the 3 things that need to happen in order for Bitcoin to hit $5 million. I'll let you guys hear it.
Bitcoin or crypto in general. Is that the thing? And then
I think there's 3 big. Look, first of all, it's going up by a factor of 10. Whether they fix any of this stuff, right? It's going to it's going to be a grind up by a factor of 10, just because gold is broken, and Bitcoin's going to replace gold. And now everybody in the universe knows they need a non-sovereign store of value in the form of a bearer instrument. So now they're looking the amount of stories for last year. People said inflation may be coming. We're not sure. Now the mainstream narrative is flipped to inflation is here. You need an inflation hedge. So it's going to grind up to replace gold. It'll go to $500,000 a coin, regardless of whether they fix these things. But there are 3 things that are massive catalysts that cause an acceleration. And I don't think that those 3 things don't take us to 500,000. They take us to 5 million a coin, right? Those 3 things are a spot ETF where someone can go ahead and buy $100 million of Bitcoin via security, an ETF security. I think that's 1. 2 is your bank is going to custody it for you and lend against it.
There you go. Right. So, and the third one, by the way, is the FASB accounting rules. ETF approved. FASB accounting rules changed. Bank, this is the last domino, ladies and gentlemen, that Michael Saylor said needed to fall in order for Bitcoin to reach $5 million a coin. Remember how much they fought the ETF? Remember that? Well, this is what they're doing. They're fighting. They're fighting this. Now, why are they fighting this? They're fighting this because once people have an alternative, this goes away. The endless wars, politicians spending anything and everything that they want on any idea that comes out of their heads, effective wealth redistribution mechanisms through currency debasement, poof, goes away. The ability for politicians to control money, control the money flows, weaponize money, sanction certain countries, goes away. That's what it's about. This is what the separation of money and state fundamentally boils down to. So, yeah, I mean, pretty crazy, right? That even though, this is passing House of Representatives, let's see how it does in the Senate. The executive branch literally, before it even has reached the Senate, say, listen, no, we would just completely veto this altogether. We don't want highly regulated financial firms to custody Bitcoin and crypto. And why would they? Why would they? Because the moment they start to taste the number go up incentive, all of a sudden, we always talk about aligned incentives on Simply Bitcoin. All of a sudden, your incentives are aligned with Wall Street now. If Wall Street is holding Bitcoin, your incentives are, and that's kind of a stretch. So I don't want to say that your incentives are totally aligned with BlackRock, but let's say you guys saw it. You saw Larry Fink on Legacy Financial Media, literally using all the Bitcoin talking points. Why? Because he's incentivized by number go up. Now, of course, Wall Street and BlackRock, they want you to buy the captured Bitcoin. And I think that's what governments are going to want you to do. They've already come to terms with the fact that they're not going to be able to make this thing go away. So I think the next, the next step, if you use common sense, is stop the ability for individuals to take self-custody of this asset. And I think that's the next battle at hand. But it also tells me that we're winning. And it tells me that we're winning because of like, look at how much they're resisting and look at the fact that now this has become a mainstream political issue, not only in the United States, but also in Argentina, also in Canada, everywhere. By 2028, I'm sticking to what I said. It is going to be unviable for a politician to take an anti-Bitcoin stance. So they're really in a race against time to roll out these central bank digital currencies. Anyways, that's my take on all this. There's about 1,152 of you guys watching live between YouTube and X, another 60 of you guys watching live on Rumble. If you guys are enjoying the show so far, and this has been a hard one because of the topic, make sure to smash that like button. Really, really helps with the algos. So smash the like button. Anyways, I'm going to pass it on to Opti. Opti, what's your take on all this, brother?
Yeah, I mean, I know I am like... I know I'm like probably the most anti-political person ever, but I think this is one of those moments where having people in politics, people in power that are actually trying to do some good is a beneficial thing. And like we said in the news or the numbers segment, it's very interesting to see 21 Democrats vote for the veto as well. Like that just goes to show it's not a monolith. There still are some people that are thinking critically and understand where this stuff ends up. And so, I mean, I think it's going to be very interesting to just see how this goes on moving forward. And it's like, I think we've been talking about this for a while, the idea of captured Bitcoin and making sure that there is, regulated, federated custodians and trying to get people to hold that Bitcoin. And I mean, I think it just kind of full circles back to what we were talking about in the numbers segment and the importance of getting people in positions of power that are pro Bitcoin. So, hey, we'll see how this plays out. I think this is one of those stories that's still kind of currently going, but man, very interesting stuff playing out in the world today.
Absolutely. What's your take on all this, Josh?
So I think that when you showed on screen, Nico, the vote in the House and how it was kind of along party lines, honestly, it's kind of disappointing to me because, I mean, Bitcoin is freedom technology, right? That everyone should embrace. Everyone wants freedom. So I'm kind of surprised that, the guys can't get together and find something like freedom that we can't all agree upon. And I just wish that there would be a way that they could come together. And because I think at a fundamental level, we're all in agreement, Democrats and Republicans, that we want more freedom in our life. So I wish I could do something, but the only thing I can do is take my money out of the fiat matrix and put it into Bitcoin, and that's our way of protesting. And so encourage everyone to keep doing it. It's working.
Absolutely. I mean, I think
100%.
That's the most important vote you can make, right? Is vote with your wallet, right? It is an election year. The most important vote you can make is taking Bitcoin into self-custody, right? 100%. Completely agree with that. Anyways, guys, before we move on to the culture to talk to Josh and what he's working on, I do want to give a very special shout out to our sponsor. And of course, I'm talking about the Orange Pill app. Find local Bitcoiners, events, and merchants. Join the 10,137 Bitcoiners that are currently on the app. It has a very clever filtration system, so you'll only find fellow Bitcoiners on the application. You're not going to get those very strange messages like, if you send me 1 Bitcoin, I'll send you 2. Also tells you the geographically which Bitcoiners are around you, right? So it's a great resource to connect with fellow Bitcoiners, build up that Bitcoin Rolodex. If you're traveling to a new city, you can send me and Opti a direct message on the Orange Pill app, and we'll try to get back to each and every single one of you. So guys, download the Orange Pill app today, scan the QR code, or check the link in the video description. Let's hit the culture. Here we go.
The Daily Culture.
All right, everybody. I also want to give a shout out to KABOOMRACKS, the most trusted place to buy, sell, and host mining equipment. You can scan the QR code right now and it will take you to their very, very special offering. They have a special sale going on. They're offering instant hosting for S19 Pro 120 terahashes. There's one-time payment of $2,466 plus $160 per month thereafter. Your hash rate goes online after your payment is confirmed. That's why it's called instant hosting. You own the miner. This is not a hash rate contract. The equipment is already online and has been running, so there's a very low chance of DOA. The price includes a 3-month security deposit and first month. The hosting price is at a low rate at 0.079 kilowatts per hour. So if you guys want to start hosting instantly, check out KABOOMRACKS today. Check out their special offer. You could scan the QR code or check the link in the video description. Opti?
Yeah, let's go. All right. So we're going to pivot the conversation a little bit here. We're going to go into a totally different topic, but I think you guys are going to really enjoy this one. So, Josh, I know you saw Nico in El Salvador, and the conversation that we're going to have, you titled it The Disintermediation of Real Estate. And I think you even mentioned it yourself that you're in the front lines, maybe in the early innings of real estate investors figuring out that Bitcoin might be a better investment. So let's start with, what do you mean by the disintermediation of real estate?
I guess I looked it up on Google, and I'll just kind of explain it the way Google said it was. The disintermediation of real estate is removing unnecessary parties to a transaction in favor of direct contact between the buyer and the seller. So how I explain that is, typically when you would sell a home, you would have to get a realtor involved. He would list the home, put it up for sale, and it doesn't sell right away. But once you get it under contract, then it would go to a title company. Then they search the title and they spend a couple weeks, a week or two on that, and then make sure your title's clean. Then they'll pass it off to an attorney to review the documents. And then finally you will and before that, you also have a home inspection, right? So you have someone else involved. So there's 4 people involved right there that are involved in the transaction before you can actually close it and move on. So typically a real estate transaction will take about 45 days to close. And so that's a long time, right? So what I've seen was, say you're in a bind, you're in a need, you have a rental property that you need to sell. You need to sell it right now. You need the money, and it's going to take you probably 45 days if it goes under contract right away to get the money in your hand. And so if you're looking for that, $500,000 out of a home that you're trying to get, it's going to take you every bit of 45 to 90 days to get that money. And whereas with Bitcoin, it will take you a total of maybe 10 minutes for the transaction to clear. So it is quick, it's immediate, and you don't have to have a trusted third party oversee your transactions. So that's why I think that things are changing. And I'm usually, in the past, my history's been, I've been fairly early to some of these things, to reading different markets. And so I've been thankful that the Lord's given me wisdom for that. But I think that there is going to be a wave of people that are going to start selling their rental homes for Bitcoin. And the real estate market, guys, is 330 trillion. Right? So obviously that money's not going to pour in immediately. And it's also not going to be a massive amount percentage-wise. But say we get 1% of guys that are like me that have learned about Bitcoin. And as you know, the more you learn about it, the more you put money into it. The more you put money into it, the more you read about it. So it's kind of a vicious cycle. And it becomes a black hole financially. At least that's what it's become in my life. So I think that if we see 1% of that $330 trillion, that's $3 trillion that goes into a Bitcoin market that has right now a cap of 1.26 trillion. So what do you think's going to happen? I mean, the number's going to go up. And yeah, and thank you, Nico. That's a great
No,
little.
that was Opti. Shout out to Opti.
For Opti. Good job, buddy. But that was from, I pulled that off of one of Michael Saylor's podcasts. But so real estate is a really big market. And I think that we're going to see a small percentage, 1%, 2%, 3% over the next 10 years that's going to bleed into the Bitcoin market because everybody's chasing the best asset. And a lot of people don't know about Bitcoin. Just because a lot of you guys that are in here, we're early. We're on the cutting edge, right? So we might have heard about it, 5, 6, 7 years ago, or it might have been 2 years ago. But we've heard about it, and there's a lot of people that own real estate that haven't heard about it, or they're just starting to hear about it. So I feel that we're really early, and I think that money's going to bleed out of real estate and going to bleed into Bitcoin, and it's going to be NGU technology, and we're going to keep going at an upward trajectory.
100%, man. 100%.
Hold on.
All right, Josh, I do want to hit on a few other points. I know we're going a little long today, but I have a lot of conversations with my friends, and I've seen this same narrative and the same trend going on social media. And we kind of talked about it before the show of, there's a big push right now that I'm seeing from like a lot of millennials on this idea of like passive income. And so I kind of want to get into the idea, maybe what would be your take on people thinking of investing in real estate versus just investing in Bitcoin?
So investing in Bitcoin is obviously easier, and taking self-custody, you have it. Nobody can take it from you, and then you don't have to do maintenance costs, carry costs. You don't have to kick out a tenant. There's a lot of things that you don't experience by owning Bitcoin. Or by owning Bitcoin. But when you are owning real estate, there is monthly maintenance, there's carry costs, there's pressure washing, there's plumbing issues, AC issues, electrical. It's nonstop, and it's become kind of, to a degree, a full-time job, to the point where a lot of people like me that own several homes, they have just farmed it out to a management company that takes a cut off of it, and they manage it. But we've only done that because in the past, that was the best asset. That was the fastest horse. But now we have a new, faster horse that we can invest in. And I mean, I don't see why there's another reason why not to buy Bitcoin. Now I will say, just to clarify my point, because I saw one of the guys in the chat talk about primary residence. Now, I do advocate buying a house and making it your primary residence, right? We have to live, we got to have a place. But I'm just saying that if you have disposable income that you can start buying other rental properties and earning money that way, you may want to look into Bitcoin and the current returns. So like I pulled up some of the returns in the United States since 1983, and the average real estate return, guys, is 5.1%, right? Like, that's rookie numbers compared to Bitcoin, right? I mean, we've had, on average, the last 10 years with Bitcoin, we've had a return of like 65%. So when you start comparing the numbers, I mean, there is a clear, faster horse, and that's where I'm starting to put my money.
Love it. Love it. And there was you did send me some notes, and I think there's one statistic, or you did some math and you ran the numbers, and I found it a very interesting number. And you basically framed it as the ratio of homes to Bitcoin. Can you talk about that a little bit? Because I think that does just further give us a visualization of how scarce Bitcoin actually is.
Sure. So most of us, we like scarcity, right? So we want to find one of the most scarce assets that are out there. So when I was when I was preparing for this, I was just kind of looking at some of the overall numbers. So we've got 8.1 billion people in the world, right? 8.1 billion. In the world, we have 2.3 billion houses in the world. So if you divide that by 21 million Bitcoin, you're looking at 109 homes to 1 Bitcoin. So if you guys are in a subdivision with 300 homes in your subdivision, realize that if it was all spread equally, that whole subdivision could only have less than 3 Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is really, really scarce. I mean, we don't realize how scarce it is.
That number, that blows my mind. When I read that, I'm like, it like, I knew scarcity, but when you put it in terms of houses, so you're like, oh man, this is actually going to get incredibly crazy. Okay, and the other thing is something I hear all the time when in regards to real estate, and you touched on it as well, and you might have touched on it a little bit in today's show, but one of the big points that I try to get across to people is the idea that your house didn't gain value, but you're actually just losing purchasing power. So how would you explain this to someone like they're in 5th grade?
Sure. Okay, so yeah, because if you look at from COVID, in some markets, like in Florida, houses are up 40-50% per year. You're going, wow, I'm making all this money, right? No, not exactly. It's because your dollar is being diluted that much. So, I mean, if we go back just to COVID, which was only literally, 4 years ago, we have, the United States has printed 42% of all the dollars that have ever existed were created in the last 4 years. So, I mean, that's crazy, right? And it's not sustainable. It is absolutely not sustainable.
Absolutely incredible. Yeah, man. I think these are the important conversations, because as a Bitcoiner, again, I'm using Nico's term, we're all outside of the Overton window. We're all considered speculators. But when you look at what is quote unquote like the non-risky investments today, you're like, I don't know. I mean, maybe I'm so biased in Bitcoin, but it seems like Bitcoin is the best thing to be holding. And it's hard to explain or have these conversations with people without them having their own biases and them having like knee-jerk reactions and closed mind to the idea that maybe you want to get some Bitcoin. It's that simple. Like, just stack Bitcoin and chill. It's super simple. But I guess we like to complicate things.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'll tell you a little story. So I had a home that I sold, and it closed in January of 2020, right? So the price of Bitcoin was 9,300, and I thought, wow, that's a great entry point. And so I went to the closing table, and my realtor and the title agent was asking me, hey, so what are you going to do? Why did you sell in the first place? And I told them I was buying Bitcoin, and they were going, wow, that's weird. That's strange. And the one lady never even heard of Bitcoin. So, so I bought Bitcoin, right? And so I have a conviction, and I thought, yes, I'm doing the right thing. And then 2 months later, right, COVID hit, and Bitcoin was down to 3,900 on March 12. And so, I mean, talk about a little bit of panic ensuing, but Bitcoin will do that, right? So, I mean, Bitcoin has exponential growth, but you also have to accept that it's volatile, and it goes up and it goes down. But as long as you have a firm conviction, during that time, even though my investment went down over 50% in 2 months, I wasn't worried about it. And even I pinned on my tweet, I did something on Twitter, and I posted something about we're printing all this money with COVID, and I'm getting more and more bullish on Bitcoin, and it's absolutely been the case. We've seen that.
Do you think, Josh, that there's more people like yourself, successful, real estate investors that are seeing the trend, like they're seeing the orange light?
Sure, absolutely. So I honestly thought that I was kind of one of the only guys in my area that did, because I've got probably 15 Bitcoin buddies in my local area, but no one going as hardcore as me. But I'll tell you, when I was in El Salvador, me and my buddy Stan were out there we were hanging out at the bar at the halving party. just having a good time. But we were just interviewing people, and everyone there was so nice. And one of the guys, he was 28 years old, and he was from Canada, and young guy, he was single, and we were just chatting about stuff. And he told me, he said, I actually sold a house it was a rental house he had. He goes, I sold it 2 years ago, and I bought Bitcoin with it. And I was like, wow, that's crazy. I said, you know, between you and me, you're the only one that I know that's really done it. And so I'll tell you, that trend is happening. I mean, albeit people are going to be quiet about it. You know, a lot of Bitcoiners are very private, and they won't tell you what they're doing. But yeah, it's more prevalent than I think that's out there.
Yeah, and on that point, Josh, you did mention the importance of continuing to have these orange pilling conversations. So you want to elaborate on that, and then we'll probably be wrapping up today's show.
So yeah, absolutely. You want to keep having the conversation. You want to keep talking to your friends, and so actually, it's funny, but in the last 60 days, I have 3 of my buddies became orange pilled. And so all 3 of them are now doing weekly buys on Bitcoin.
Oh yeah.
We just were talking about it over and over. And it's sad that 2 of my friends, they heard about it when Bitcoin was $4,000 back in 2018, 19. And they just didn't pull the trigger. But like you guys say, you get it at the price you deserve. But they are now, they're now buying on a weekly basis. And we keep talking to each other about it. And I mean, iron strengthens iron. So by having these conversations, it helps build your conviction. And also, the more that you guys are, you know, tuning into Simply Bitcoin and listening to other Bitcoin related podcasts, you're gonna gain knowledge. And with knowledge is power. And with that comes a better conviction so that you can stomach when things go down.
100%.
100% agree. 100% agree. All right. Last 2 sats, Josh. What's the last message you want to leave with the audience? And then let's wrap up today's show.
Okay. Gotcha. Well, yeah. Hey, thanks for having me, guys. And so I just kind of wanted to throw out 5 points, 5 quick little points that I thought that, you know, has made my life easier. And guys, I feel that if you look into that, you'll do the same. And so the first thing is I got down, get right with Jesus and read the Bible. That'll help. Go outside, get fresh air, get sunlight, go on a walk. That's what I do every day. I go on a walk with the dogs and I plug in Simply Bitcoin, and it's been good. Be positive, hang out with positive people. The negative people that are causing you drama, get them out of your life, right? Number 4 is set goals. Write them down, write them on a chalkboard, put them on a wall, and pursue those goals. And then the last one, which is really easy for all of us, is buy Bitcoin, put it in self-custody, and disconnect from the fiat matrix.
Oof, well, dude. Man, I Josh, it was a pleasure to have you on today, and thank you so much for, you know, exposing your knowledge to the Bitcoin verse and our audience. And you know, it's people like yourself that are really truly, you know, you are launching a speculative attack on the dollar via real estate, and we totally, you know, could get behind it. And I agree with your 5 points, specifically the first one. So Josh, thank you so much for coming on the show today. I appreciate it.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Let's get you back on in a couple of months, man. I'd love to hear like an update.
Okay, yeah, let's do it, because I have one house that's for sale right now, so I'll have more to tell you in about 60 days.
Absolutely. Well, appreciate it.
Wait, before we go, Nico, sorry. Josh, is there anything you'd like to plug for the audience where they can follow you, all that good stuff?
Oh, sure. Thanks, Opti. So Bitcoin Josh 1 on Twitter, and also on the Orange Pill app. I'm on, what am I? Moto X Josh. I'm a motorcycle guy, and so yeah. I mean, if you want to send me messages on Twitter, that'd be great. I actually have a big Twitter following. I have all these Asian women between 18 and 24 that are just asking me all the time how my trading's going. and they want to help me out. They want to give me 2 Bitcoin if I send them 1. So it's really nice of them. So.
Oh, you're funny. All right, actually, last question, Josh. 2-stroke or 4-stroke?
Well, I have both, but 2-stroke all the way.
Okay.
And if you guys are around in Florida, I have a track. So DM me and come to my house. I got extra bikes.
Dang, that's what's up.
Love it. Love it. All right, Josh. Well, thank you so much for joining us, guys. That was our show. Josh, our guest, my legendary co-host, Optimus Fields. I'm your host, Nico. Guys, as a media organization, we officially endorse Donald Trump and RFK Jr. for president because they are pro-Bitcoin and anti-CBDC. And we can't stand behind Joe Biden, not because of his policies or his ideology, but specifically because he has been incredibly hostile towards the industry from a regulatory standpoint. And our goal at Simply Bitcoin is the separation of money and state. And we truly believe that if you fix the money, you fix the world, and you make the world a much better place for everyone, right? Anyways, love you all. If you guys enjoyed the show, you know what to do. Smash the like button. Consider subscribing if you feel like we provided you value. And we'll be back tomorrow for the Friday show and Opti's meme review. All right, everybody. Love you all. Catch you guys later.
Episode was brought to you by BitcoinWell.com, on a mission to enable independence.